Big thanks to Nani for suggesting this video in our community Discord server. Thank you so much.
I think the first thing that comes to mind when I think of the PS4 and Xbox One era is all of the games that released in just a totally busted state. Don't get me wrong, broken games have existed since long before the PS4 and Xbone. Shout out Superman 64. Hi Clark, how are you? Good to see you. Haven't seen you since college when you lasered that professor. But there definitely weren't nearly as many big budget AAA busters. You know, Big Rigs is barely comprehensible, but that game was made by one man in a pond, not a giant AAA Megatron. Back in the prehistoric days of the Xbox 360 and PS3, downloading an update to fix issues or add stuff to your disc-based game after its release was like a fairly new concept, but like an actually pretty cool concept. Wait, so the interweb can make my already legendary game even more legendary by downloading this epic Chuck Norris update? That's pretty like a boss.
I actually got rid of my Xbox 360 because I was so tired of the updates. I felt like every time I turned on the console, there was some other update, and I was like, I just want to play my games.
I see no way this could ever end badly for the consumer. It is 2007. I just saw Michael Clayton. But nowadays, the disc inside that case you just bought is practically dead weight the second you've installed the game and downloaded the likely necessary giant update full of fixes not included on the disc. Because the disc was actually manufactured months prior to the game's set release date, and the developers kept working on stuff during that time, likely because the publisher set the release date way too early and were just like, it's fine, everyone has the internet, you'll fix it in time, just never stop working. You don't have to see your family.
And see, I think this actually might be why so many games today still release in a broken state, because I honestly don't think there's enough incentive to release games in a completed state. You know what I mean? Like, if you could just 50% finish the game and then already do pre-sale orders and get rewarded for not having the finished product, why would you ever finish it? Even if the creative team really wants to finish it, if the publisher wants it out sooner for their own profit motive. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think we're in a time where there's really any incentive to complete games. And in fact, I feel like there's a kind of culture around enjoying broken games. So in a way, the bugs can be seen as features, which just reduces the desire to complete a game even more, in my opinion. I mean, I think this is kind of like what Bethesda is known for. Like, they've created so many games that were not completed at all upon release, and yet it's almost become a meme and something the community loves. That in Skyrim, so many voice actors are the same, for example, or in Fallout 76, there's really weird glitches. It's almost a part of the brand in a good way. You know what I mean? Like, it's so bad it's good. It's that.
Your family is dumb. Your families are literally the cringiest idiots I've ever seen. Why do you want to go home to them? Goofy. Your family? L. The disc may as well just be a doctor's note that tells your PS4, yes, my son actually does own the game. Now, go ahead and give him the necessary day one flu shot. Oh my God, it's 87 gigabytes. Fallout 76 didn't even actually come with a disc, so you actually just got a cool new blue coaster for your psychotic Reddit dungeon. Basically, if you don't have internet access nowadays as a gamer, you're screwed. But my goal with this video isn't just to be like, wow, things used to be better back in the day and now they're all bad, because it's not that simple or true.
Gamer grandpa.
True. Big budget broken video games exist for a lot of reasons. The first one being making video games is just really, really hard. I have been openly critical of many big budget AAA games on this channel, but I hope that I have always made one thing very Crystal Pepsi clear. A lot of very talented people work
Wait, Crystal Pepsi's a thing?
very hard for very long, crunchy Nature Valley hours to make even seemingly simple stuff like this possible. And it's crazy. And in order for a game to be even considered pretty good by the general public, gameplay, sound, story, characters, performance, all of these things have to perfectly align in the gamer night sky. Obviously, modern technology has made creating virtual worlds a lot easier than it was back in the 80s or 90s, and I think we often take that for granted. We've come a long way from the days where 3D was a bit more of a fluid, abstract concept like jazz, and you aimed a gun with the same finger you drove drove James Bond with. But with better tools and better hardware comes bigger projects, with bigger budgets, with bigger teams, with bigger lists of bigger problems that your big ass better fix with your big tractor. And if you've ever been hanging out with a big group, you know that even doing something as simple as deciding where to go for dinner can quickly become a f***ing boss fight. Especially when your friend's mom, who's paying for the dinner, has all these crappy dinner demands because she's trying to satisfy her dinner shareholders. This metaphor is getting a little goofy. I think you get the point. I know half of you are just thinking about Michael Clayton still. So I think the first obvious reason for AAA games releasing in a broken state is that game development is just insanely hard and requires so much dedicated collaboration and efficient time management, and it's a miracle that any video game ever gets finished and even exists at all, and all video games should go to heaven. The second reason is
Yeah, see, this is the point I was talking about from the beginning, because I'm a little disillusioned by the gaming industry. I went to college for art and animation, and I did make a few games, very basic ones for the most part. And no, he's 100% right. I mean, small teams and indie devs, I think, should always be given a bit more grace, because when you're doing all that by yourself, and you should really have a team, like, you're allowed to make something broken. It's still a masterpiece when you're just like one person. I'm still impressed actually that Undertale ended up being as good as it was, considering that Toby worked on that game for years, largely by himself. I mean, I think that there were some like creative contributions here and there, but other than that, I'm pretty sure he made the whole thing himself. And I think that is still an achievement. Yeah, but I feel like most of the time, the games we become aware of are bigger names like Nintendo, and I think greed is more of a possibility there.
Okay, buddy, that's enough out of you. Hi, I'm Jakey, and Jakey, attorneys at law, and I'm here to tell you about today's video sponsor, PayPal Honey. Honey is a free online shopping tool that automatically...
I use Honey, actually. It's pretty great. You can even track... I realize I'm leaning into this ad. Okay, hear me out. Honey will actually show you how prices of products on Amazon have changed over the last 30, 60, 90, etc. days, which is actually really helpful because prices on Amazon are constantly fluctuating for no reason other than greed. So you may see a price on Amazon right now without Honey and it looks like a reasonable price, but maybe it was $5, $10 cheaper 30 days ago and you wouldn't know that unless you had Honey. Okay, let's go.
searches for promo codes at checkout, like a little deal detective, so that you don't have to. Honey works for so many things. Things that you're probably already buying, like shoes or chairs, on websites that you're probably already shopping on. And did I mention that it's completely free? Hey, no objections over here. Sustained and overruled. Shit. Anytime you see your little dancing detective up here, just click apply coupons and let little shorty do his thing and try to save you some money. Dang! I recently needed a new lawyer briefcase because my previous one was covered in so much mud, for reasons I'm not at liberty to say. So naturally, I looked online for a cute new backpack that I could take into the courtroom, and Honey found a coupon that's freaking good! Whether you use Google Chrome, Opera, Fire...
The coupon thing is useful, but 9 times out of 10, honestly, just the price checking. It price checks across different websites. Did you know that? It does. Psst, Honey, hey, Honey. Call me. I'd be a great sponsor.
Firefox, Safari, or for whatever reason, Microsoft Edge, you can add Honey to your browser for free by going to joinhoney.com/NakeyJakey. Using my special link helps the channel and is greatly appreciated by all of the attorneys here at
Support Nakey Jakey!
Jakey, and Jakey, and Jakey, and Jakey, and Jakey, and Jakey. Thank you to Honey for sponsoring this video, and now let's get on back to this episode of Nabo Jabo in the age of Michael Clayton. As most of you in the audience know, new video games sell around $60, or I guess now $70 on PS5 and Xbox Series S. X, why the f*** did they call them that? And it's been around that 50 to...
Xbox does a lot of questionable things.
$60 price point for a while, even though AAA games take way longer to make now and have way bigger budgets than back in the day when I was star quarterback. So because of all that, and also inflation, in some cases, it's kind of a steal to get a game like Elden Ring for only $60 when Eternal Ring was $50 23 years ago. And the swords in that game are tiny. They're not nearly as girthy or as long as Elden Ring. You go out in public with it?
You know what? He's actually making me appreciate the current price point of games. You know what? That's a good point.
Shrinking, I'll kick your ass. Donkey Online has a really good video about video game pricing that you should go watch later, but not right now. If you leave, you won't see how I learned how to spin. I'm gonna spin later. You're gonna wanna see that. So if you're a company whose main priority at the end of the day is just to generate as much profit as humanly possible, why not cut a few corners, you know, assuming that your reputation isn't all that important to you. Because if it's a choice between A, spending millions of dollars for every month that you lengthen development time to ensure that you release a relatively bug-free and finished product, and hope it eventually pays off because lots of people recognize that it's good quality and buy it and sing your praises and you win awards at the big show and Jeff goes, "Oh man, your game is so big, it's the biggest game I've ever seen, dude," which is all a very big gamble. Or B, set a very unrealistic release date that you know damn well you will not make and force your team to crunch their asses off only to still release a broken game that you'll maybe eventually fix with a giant update long
What game is that?
after release and after you've already made all your money. And to make sure you definitely see a return on your giant investment and satisfy your investors, you do all these pre-order bonuses and fancy trailers with celebrities just to guarantee that people buy your game before gamers can even know that the game is busted as hell, because you've also made it so that no publication can drop a review for the game until the day the game comes out, which should be illegal. Yeah, if the only thing you care about is sales in your quarterly reports, you're definitely planting at bomb site B. Just like Ubisoft and EA and Bethesda and Square Enix and Activision and CD Projekt Red and Microsoft. Like several times. You very rarely see Sony or Nintendo or Rockstar publish a big broken unfinished mess because they know that their reputation is a big reason people purchase games that have their cute little sexy logos in the corner. The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man, God of War, all of these Sony exclusives released in relatively bug-free and complete states. And, well, Days Gone was iffy, but we don't have to talk about Days Gone. Yeah, I said your name, sweetie. Now go back to bed, okay? Doesn't mean that those devs didn't have to crunch like hell to reach the finish line. No, unfortunately, crunch is a huge problem across the
And Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, by the way, is one of those games that was really crunched. It was made in under a year, in case you were wondering why the textures were extra crunchy, which I think is kind of unusual for Nintendo also. I mean, Nintendo went through its rough patch, which is partly why Majora's Mask was so rushed, but usually you don't get a game like that from Nintendo, so it's a very interesting example of what can happen when a big brand name game company manages to not care about their reputation. Sometimes it ends very well and you get an iconic game, even if it was rushed. And then sometimes you get a buggy game that people can't love. Because it's not so bad that it's good, it's just so bad that it's bad.
The entire industry, and even Golden Girl publishers and developers like Sony and Naughty Dog aren't exceptions to that. It's still very much not ideal. But apparently even Golden Girls like Nintendo or Rockstar, companies with some of the highest rated games of all time,
Is he gonna talk about what I just said?
under their championship belt, they push Site B too. It's
I love when I predict how a video is gonna go. This is so cool.
B, rush B, rotate B, rotate B. The GTA Definitive Trilogy was one of the most appalling and disappointing re-releases of a beloved franchise that the world has ever seen. And this is Rockstar, the company that put out this game, and this game, and this game, and this game. And fuck it, even this game is amazing. And you know money isn't tight with how much of a cash cow GTA 5 continues to be 10 years later. Like, this isn't an indie publisher rushing out Hog Simulator 3 because they're strapped for cash after their Kickstarter failed. No, this is Rockstar. It's just greed. I don't know if it falls on Rockstar or their parent company Take-Two, but at some point, someone or someone's somewhere said, "F it, we'll do it live." And Nintendo, they just published the 2 lowest rated.
Yes, yep, yeah, these are 2 pretty good examples of Route B.
Mainline Pokemon games to ever exist. Games now famous online for their hilarious bugs. And I ain't talking about Caterpie. And even if there's a fun game buried underneath all the bugs, it should be illegal to advertise and sell a product in this state. And that brings me to my final reason that I think broken AAA games will continue to exist.
There's no consequences for releasing them. right? That's what I would say. The idea that it should be illegal to release games in a broken state, I think that's a little strong, just because then indie devs, small devs would be treated the same as big devs, and I'm not so sure if that's fair. But what I did find upsetting about what Nintendo did with Pokemon Violet and Scarlet is they had advertisements for these games where the animation was solid. Like, they made these games look completed and graphically much more beautiful than they actually were. That's false advertising, and that should not be allowed. However, I'm actually okay with broken games, partly because that's somewhat subjective. I mean, is it broken if you can actually complete the game? Is it broken if it's disruptive to the gameplay? Okay, well, how much does it have to be disrupted for the game to be considered broken? You know, I mean, I guess we could come up with criteria for this, but more than anything, I don't like the false advertising. I think if developers simply were forced to advertise in a way that was authentic to what the game actually is, that would actually incentivize them to complete the games, because then they would realize, well, I guess we can't fool our audience because they're going to see exactly what the game looks like in our ads. So if we don't make something good enough, they're not going to buy it for real, because we can't have these kind of fake beautified ads that don't actually represent what the product really is. You know what I mean? I feel like that alone would be a pretty good solution.
I touched on this in my ads and video games video, but oh my god, stop pre-ordering games. That's why these companies keep promising to serve you hot lunch.
This too! I never ever pre-order games. Why? Because I'm rewarding someone for doing nothing but giving lip service. And I'm not about that. You have to give me the game, and I need to vet it, and I need to know this is actually solid before I give you my money. And the way that I do that is I wait until usually someone who's like a pioneer of video games, you know, maybe a game player or something, they play it first and I get to see it. And if it looks completed, okay, then I will buy it. But I never pre-order, because that takes all the incentive out of developers and game companies actually creating good products. If you're willing to buy the idea instead of the reality, then they're just going to keep giving you the ideas you want to see but never delivering on the reality because you bought the idea. And that's why pre-orders don't make any sense for the viewers, the game players themselves. Great for the company making the game, not so great for everyone else.
Square pizza and then go, psych, you're getting swapped! Because they know the average consumer is gullible as hell and overly trusting and super loyal to their favorite thing, and they prey on those sensibilities to make sure that your money ends up in their pocket. And it does. Every single time. Pokemon was busted as hell and still sold 20 million copies. It's like serious gamer Stockholm syndrome, where people will watch a pre-release review for a game like Dying Light 2 on IGN or GameSpot and defend the game like their fucking life depends on it, even though they haven't even played it yet. Okay guys, but remember, this is without the day one patch, and we all know those usually fix everything. You can't spell ignorant without IGN or ants. And even months after the damage is done and a broken product has sold millions of copies because apparently gamers have toasters for brains, people in the comments will once again applaud and defend companies like EA or CD Projekt Red for sticking with their game and fixing it long after release, which it's like, I guess that deserves some level of praise, maybe? You know what I
No, it doesn't. If they were good at games, then they would release them good in the first place. No. Stop being nice to corporations. They're corporations. They can afford to be competent, okay?
mean? It's like you buy a taco for the full price because you were advertised a full taco on the fucking taco screen. And when you get that taco, you open up the greasy paper just to see a busted ass half taco.
This is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what a pre-order is. This is why I don't pre-order.
Taco shell with only beans on it. It's only beans. Oops, all beans. And then 6 months later, a Taco Bell employee rings your doorbell and gives you the other half of that busted taco that still doesn't have all the meat on it that they promised. And your response is to start clapping? Like, what the f***? And don't get me wrong, definitely throw love to the
I sometimes wonder if this is just another symptom of like late stage capitalism. Like, you know, it's broken when these corporations are incredibly successful, and that's still not enough reason for them to like release completed things. And they're like, all right, how can we be even more profitable and do even less work? You know, I feel like over time, over the past few decades, people just get, and companies just get lazier and lazier. and do whatever they can to not actually have to produce results. It's almost like this system isn't about producing results at all, but getting rewarded for giving the impression of results, because people will believe that the impression is the real thing. I'm ranting a little bit here, but this is frustrating to me.
Hardworking individual devs that actually got in the crunchy taco shell trenches and coded this broken mess back together, but give zero f***ing credit to the shitty overlord Taco Bell EA Corporation responsible for that broken taco that you paid full price for in the first place. God damn it, I need a taco or at least a churro to the throat. Fucking God.
Oh my god, is he okay?
A lot of initially broken games can eventually blossom into really good ones, like No Man's Sky, Master Chief Collection. Final Fantasy XIV was like completely reborn, pun intended, and people love it now, and that's awesome. But this cycle will repeat as long as gamers continue to buy games and pre-order games before even knowing if it runs as well as the pudding on their treadmill. The only possible change starts with you and what you choose to spend your money on. Otherwise, we're just gonna keep getting anthems shoved into our ant holes. But you know what they say, you can't spell Nakey Jakey without Jane or Kevin. I'm gonna start uploading more stuff to Jaquan the Jequel, so if you wanna go subscribe to my twin, you can get some indie slop in between my AAA Prestige exclusive DLC Nakey content. Thank you to Honey and Jakey and Jakey Attorneys at Law for sponsoring this video. Get at me on Instagram or Twitter, or don't. I can't enforce that as I am not your legal guardian, and I'll see you next time on The Gamer Wars. It's good to be back. I'm excited. I got more videos in the works. I don't know why I always get more candid and sincere right at the end, but anyways, it's good to be back. Gamers forever.
It's okay, Nikki Jakey. I am the same way. But yeah, I've never understood why people do pre-orders. I mean, I guess it's one thing if you gift a friend a pre-order just because they're a diehard fan of a certain franchise and you want them to be the first to experience something, you know? But other than that, I don't understand why anyone would pre-order any game, because you're paying for something and not really knowing what it is. And as we've seen from game ads in the past, game developers can create a really beautiful ad for a game that is nowhere near as beautiful. So what are we doing, guys? What are we doing? I mean, isn't this just the gaming equivalent of like being in a narcissistic relationship? Of course EA loves me. I mean, that's why they made all these other games that were broken and not fun. But it'll be different this time if I just give them enough time, you know. I can fix them, okay? I can fix them. They'll understand. I just need to give them a little more time and energy and appreciation, and they'll find their way. They'll get there. No, they won't. Because you don't punish them when they do something bad. If there's no consequence for making crappy games, why would a company ever make a good one? We have to up our standards. We need to demand more from gaming companies. Because you know what? The economy does suck. And the price of games is pretty good considering. But guess what? That's their problem because they decided to be a gaming company and make games, okay? So they have to figure that out ethically, not by false advertising their supporters, okay? This is not the way. And if these companies truly knew how to deliver results, they wouldn't have to cut corners in order to solve their problems. So maybe they should think about that before, you know, getting into the industry or continuing to stay in it. And I know that sounds really harsh, but you know what? That's business, okay? That's business no matter what industry you're in. These are things you have to take into account and that you have to compensate for through creativity and coming up with solutions. And cutting corners is actually not very efficient because they may make more money in the short term. But what happens to their brand in the long term? What happens to their franchises in the long term? Are we really going to be content with really temporary satisfaction but long-term destruction of our favorite franchises? Or do we want them to have staying power and to be great games today, but to also be able to play them 10-20 years from now and to be like, yeah, this was a really good game and it still is a good game because it was just that solid. There are classic games that were made in a completed fashion, and we still play them today because they're just that good. When it comes to games that are incomplete, I feel like typically people don't go back to them. Maybe we'll play them for a few years, 5, maybe 10, and then we forget about them. But I feel like it's the well-built games that really stand the test of time and deliver value for the longest period of time. So why are we settling? Oh my god, I just realized I was ranting about that for a long time. Thank you guys so much for listening to me today, guys. Tell me your thoughts about the age of broken games below, and I'll see you in the next video. It's ad break time. If you would like to support me and my content, check out merchofthewind.com. Here are some shirts that are designed by yours truly. We have this adorable waifu cup by Xander Can Draw. Here's a mug also designed by myself. We have this cute notebook by Litobug. And we have a lot of affordable options like these cute stickers. There are even more options on merchofthewind.com, so do check that out, and thank you for all of your support.